Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley. I would like to ask us, each and every one of you, that if you enjoyed these shows, please hit like, share, and subscribe after you view the show. Thank you very much.
Well, hello, world, and welcome to another episode of the Crisis Victory Show. Today, I have a very special guest that I want to have share her story with you. She's somebody that is a survivor, and she has taken the knowledge, if you will, of that which she had survived in earlier years, converted it into a humanitarian scale to reach out and assist and aid other people. Her name is Angela Fernandez, and correct me if I'm wrong, Angela, you're a metaphysicist. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, this is so exciting. As you know, I told you before the show that I have a master's in metaphysics, so I'm really loving that this is coming into play on the specific show today. So briefly, what I'd like to do is get a short version of what you have survived, what you've gone through, and then how you have maneuvered that into where you're assisting and aiding other people today.
Okay, so to shorten it a little bit, my life has been what I would call darkness, right? It has been moving through trial and error, through experience, and resiliency is probably the number one word that I could use to describe me. I've been through sexual abuse. Relationships have been my way of growing and learning, not only about myself, but about others. And I was in drugs. I was the type of person that lost myself in work and then partying on the weekends. I was robotic. I've been, when I was little, I tried to go to sleep using Dimetap, and I drank about half a bottle. I think I was like 12. And my mother was nervous. She ended up sending me to a mental hospital. And that is something that left me closed off to the world, unsafe to share myself, my emotions. And most of my life was people pleasing, proving myself, just playing small. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's so common, what you're describing right there. It's going to be interesting to hear how you converted the wisdom of surviving that into where you're at today. Your energy feels so great to me right now. I absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I worked really hard to get here.
Yeah, I can sense that. Please go ahead. I apologize for interrupting.
I'm good. No, it's okay. So as I've moved to those spaces, right, relationship after relationship, I finally met this one relationship. It was the one that brought me to my knees, had my face bashed in. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and saying, how did we get here, Angela?
Yeah.
Like I swore, my dad was a police officer. We didn't have a great relationship. My parents divorced, but I was like, I swore I would never do drugs. I was judgmental, right? I swore I'd never let anybody lay a hand on me. And here I am looking in the mirror like, who are you? And so from that moment, that was probably about 7 years ago. You might hear my animals in the background, by the way.
That's great.
That was about 7 years ago. And I said, something has to change. I don't know what it is. I don't know where I'm going. I was raised Christian. And my mom brought me to all these churches, like Pentecostal ones where they were speaking in tongues, right? And I was just like, oh, this is amazing. But I always felt this kind of separation. But it was interesting because even though it was the same religion, every church was different. Some were more inviting, some I connected with, some I didn't. So that was another thing that like set me on my journey. So I did ayahuasca. That's what I did after the abuse. And from there, it was puzzle piece after puzzle piece, which eventually led me to Sekhem. So I've done over 17 plant medicine shamanic journeys.
Wow.
I don't know. So this is like the moment in life where people are like, well, how did you know to do that? And I'm like, I just knew. When we know something and it comes from cosmic, right, or universal intelligence, it is so anchored and steady, right? It's like, and then in that steadiness and anchoredness through your heart, you got to deal with your humanness. That was the hardest part, right? The fear, am I crazy? What are these gifts? Because I've had them since I've been little, to be able to see in the dimensions, and right. And so through each of those shamanic journeys, I got puzzle pieces. And then I'd have to be like, okay, are we gonna, from Sekhmet? So I work with the Egyptian pantheon, and I was like, this is crazy. Like the ancestral curse, right? I remember the first time I heard that word, because I'm corporate. I come from like district management, right? So
Wow.
so I'm here and I'm like, you want me to call it what? And to the people, like out in the world, you want me to say this? This is insane. But there's something about that word that attracts my fractal, right? The people I'm here to impact. And so I used it, and I've done over 50, 60 of them, and it's changed people's lives. And I continue to grow. But what's interesting is it's not in me knowing all the things, right? It's me trusting myself in my heart, getting out of
Yes.
my own way. And then the information I receive, is it aligned? I always filter it through the heart space. It's space. That's what I say. It's the space always, right?
So have you ever studied chakra therapy in your journey?
Mm-mm.
You've never worked with the chakra, the energy centers of the
Oh, I
body?
do work with the energy centers, but
Yeah.
what's interesting about my path is everything that I've learned. I'm a 7 life path, so I love to soak
Oh,
up
interesting.
knowledge. I read all the time. I love science. I love metaphysics. I love theology, but everything that I've been shown has been shown to me from a cosmic intelligence. So and then
Understood.
I go and I research it, right? And I'm like, oh, whoa, this matches up. This
Yeah.
is actually right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes with that inner feeling and an alignment with that which is universal, because energy we draw from and energy we expend back into the universe. And we have to be very careful in that process once we learn it, because we have to make sure that we can bypass and remove negative energy sources that try to come and enter in with us, and not only create a delusional path, if you will, but it can also get us to realign people that we're working with in a non-symptomatic measure, meaning that we are giving them bad information when we're thinking we're giving or directing good energy sources and good information. So
100%.
yeah, I really like that you're into that. And you're my very first guest on my show that I've had over 60 episodes that has a metaphysical background, and I've been dying to get one of you on here. So this is really huge.
Awesome.
And your energy, like I made a comment to you earlier, I felt it immediately. So I love that you transition that and you put that out to people that don't even have to be in the same room with us. We're all in the same universe together. So there's no distance to align what we try to bring in a beautiful and peaceful and cause effective measure to other people. So when you're working with people, do you find yourself aligning with people that have similar experiences of what you have gone through?
Yes. And I also find, so this is what I love about energy and the interconnectedness of us all, is no
Yes.
matter how awakened you are or how unawakened you are, we all have a lesson to learn from each other. So what I find is that no matter where I'm at on my journey, let's say I'm dealing with being seen, there might be someone who comes into my space, right? A client that has struggled being seen or has overcome that, but is dealing with something else. And it's in Sekhem, we have this saying that says, as you are healed, I am healed. Right.
Yes.
So I've dealt with people. I think, let me backtrack. It's so important to share our experiences with people, right? It's so important
Yes.
that if we're willing to open up and be vulnerable, then other people are willing to open up and be vulnerable. And so, in short, yes, I do work with a lot of people who have experienced what I've experienced, but also more or different, right? Not more,
Yeah.
but different. And
Yeah.
I've
Yeah. I
learned a
like
lot
that.
from them.
Can you explain to the audience what Sekhem is?
So Sekhem is named after Sekhmet. She's a primordial deity in ancient Egypt, one of the oldest. It means all-powerful or protector of Ma'at. It's an energy healing modality, and it follows cosmic law. So it's a solar intelligence. A lot of people are familiar with Reiki. I will
Yeah.
compare them. I don't like to compare, but Sekhem is coming back into the world because it's potent, right? We have evolved and in our consciousness to where we are wanting to get to the root of our issues. We're not just wanting to feel better when we do energy healing, right? We're wanting to
Right.
truly awaken and move forward. And how do I impact my reality? How do I experience my gifts, right? How do I take all of that and understand it myself and then fuel that out into the world? And so that's what Sekhem does. It finds you at your root, and each chakra has a Natiru or god or goddess that's associated
Yes,
with
they
it,
do.
right? That helps you.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
we have 6 major chakras in the body,
Yeah.
but we have 26 secondary, and then we have 50, I think it's 54, that are third energy sources that connect and help align that barrel down, if you will, to the existing 6 chakras. But you were talking about other therapies, shiatsu therapy, Reiki therapy. All of these are energy-centered therapies, and they all have a basic ingredient of commonality with regard to taking energy sources and knowing how to shift and align. And that's why I was asking you about your background around chakra therapy. I studied it extensively over 20 years ago, and I was a hospice counselor in federal prison. I was a prisoner myself, trained in the to become certified to take other prisoners through the dying process. And in the death rooms that I worked, I had 2.5 years in that field, took over 24 prisoners through the dying process, and completed my seminarial studies in those death rooms. So there was an energy that is virtually indescribable. Instead of sitting in a classroom in seminary, I'm sitting there with people that are in their last stages of life. And it was such a beautiful and humbling and compelling experience. And when I graduated seminarial studies in there, I was Pentecostal, I was Foursquare, and Assemblies of God was my instructor. So I do understand when you talk about praying in tongues. I do understand about the laying on of hands and the healings. And we actually saw miracles performed in those rooms. But the energy, I want to share a brief story with you. I was with a patient, and he was in final stages of life within the last few minutes. And I remember as his eyes opened up to me the last time that they were open, and he thanked me and said, "Thank you, I love you." And there was no fear in him, for the former things had passed away. He was ready and accepting that he was shifting into that which we all become after we leave the flesh. Well, I felt a presence in the room. So I thought that under that condition, maybe his family were being allowed to say goodbye to him, or somebody else connected to the prison hospital. I didn't know. I didn't want to turn around. I had my hand on his arm. I was calmly rubbing his arm. I was reminding him of the wonderful memories that he had shared with me in the couple months that he was my patient. And then he died. He was gone. And I remember not moving for a few seconds to allow that energy to take its journey in comfort and in tranquility. And it's just such a special moment when they pass and separate from the flesh. But anyway, I got up out of my chair and I turned, and there was nobody there. And I thought the room was full of people. And I wrote in the Hospice Journal magazine, which they published, that article describing that. And what that was the energy of so many others that had been in his life, that had passed before him, and they came to take him home. And it was wonderful and beautiful and indescribable in that moment of feeling those energies. So in your process of helping other people, the energy and being able to attain a connection with other people's energies and aligning with that specific moment is so critical, and it is so permanent because it is eternal. And I think that the field that you're in is absolutely amazing, because what you do doesn't leave them when you leave that appointment or that time that you were with them. What you have done is given a part of your energy self that takes throughout the day and days ahead with them, and they reflect on that. Am I correct in assuming that?
You are correct. And what I see and what you shared, and in what I do is the way that we hold space, right? It's like when you sat there and had your hand
like
on
that.
your arm, and you just allowed, right, the energy to come in and to be that bridge. And that's what I do, right?
Yeah.
Is that bridge. And it's indescribable because just like you said, right? Like I get to witness somebody
Yes.
else stepping into that energy and maybe for the first time feeling safe to be vulnerable, feeling safe to tell their story. And in that safety, being accepted, right? Being loved
Yeah.
just by me. I've never met you before, but
Yeah.
I can hold space with you and I can have compassion for you and love for
Yeah,
you.
we're doing it right now.
Yeah,
I feel it.
exactly.
Yeah. That's the beauty of having the knowledge and the ability, if you will, to understand the specifics of energy that we all share on a universal basis. But you know what? You were talking about the allowance. You have to let it come into you. You have to be prepared, if you will, because this is where I was telling you earlier about how we have to bounce away from, if you will, the negative energies that try to come in and disrupt the beauty of what we are trying to convey to one another in a humanitarian scale. I find your industry fascinating. It's a holistic measure that needs a lot more representation because we are three things in creation. We are body, we are mind, and we are soul. And what we have to do is learn to align those three components of that which we are into a unity of being able to transcend, if you will, into other forms of acceptance when we're struggling with critical events. Your ministry, if you will, is a highly questioned and sensitive industry because a lot of people do not open up those gates within themselves to allow another person's energy to introduce itself unto them in their struggle. And this is the work that you have set before yourself, a work that you have an understanding that this is the holistic healing aspect of what you have been trained to do, conditioned to do, and what you yourself survived in your earlier years of life. You can convey that in a beautiful and loving and not so complex way.
Yes.
I just love that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And I think the big thing is that it's possible, right? We get so
yes.
stuck. Like I remember being stuck in the darkness and not seeing an end in sight. And
The
I look
negative
back,
energy.
yeah,
That's that
right.
negativity that comes in and
Yeah.
tries to block the work.
Yeah. And I look back now and I'm like, wait a minute, it is possible. Wait a minute. Like I thought I wanted, right? Way back when I was like, I just want a penthouse and I don't want to deal with humanity. And I just, right? I want like millionaire. And now I'm like, whoa, you know what life is about? Finding peace.
Yes.
Peace, body, mind, and soul,
Yeah.
peace, that Trinity, right? That Holy Trinity. And it's there's nothing like it when I just wake up and enjoy my coffee in the rain, right? Like,
yeah, I love that. Yeah, I can visualize that exact moment that you just described, and I love that too. There's nothing better, is there?
no. But 10 years ago, I would have argued with you about that.
Yes, you would have. Yeah. So tell me, how receptive are the people that you work with when they first get initiated to who you are? Do they put up walls to self-protect themselves? Are they afraid to let loose? Are they do they have concerns because they're still suffering from their critical crisis moments by the time they are introduced to you? How do you break that wall? How do you get in there?
So this work is so much surrender, right? All the people that have come into my space have been guided to me in one way or
Oh,
another. Don't
okay.
ask me how. I don't, but right? It's the magic of the universe.
Yes.
And so it's been a trust walk for me, right? Like to move into this area of business, to devote my life to it. But people who come into my space, I just have this way of being tender with people, but also being triggering, right? Because and I don't live in right or wrong. I always say it's not about right or wrong. It's not about up, down. It's about just what is, right? And what's the result that you want? Well,
Yes.
let me help you let me be the bridge between here, A and B, right? And so sometimes they have walls, but I love to use astrology and gene keys and human design because those maps or those practical applications allow people to connect the metaphysical, right? And then their humanity together and like, oh, the light bulb clicks. And when the light bulb clicks, they're more willing to share.
Yeah, that's a perfect interpretation of just exactly what I was seeking in this conversation. You know, the allowance of another person's energy to be intercepted within our own is such a moment of, what's the right word for that? Maybe an insecurity that we didn't identify with earlier. It's very, very hard to let people in that we don't know, especially when we're vibing on their energies and we're feeling it. And we know that there's something there that could actually be harmful to us. Yet we know that we can't be restrictive in that moment of the energy shifting and changing that we're committing ourselves to. Fascinating.
And I think too, on the polar opposite of what you said, right? Like for me, what I struggled with is allowing people in my energy, like opening my
Right,
heart and being
right.
vulnerable with others, because what I got was the more vulnerable I'm willing to be, the more they're willing to meet me. So it
Hence,
was growth on my end too.
hence the holistic healer.
Hmm.
That's exactly right. You are allowing an energy to come in and intermingle within your own. And that can be a really hard thing to do because sometimes it triggers things that we have survived and gone through within our own past relations of self and others that are immediately ensconced in our existence. And how do we let the negativity go? Well, we can actually share it to a beneficial and a humanitarian way. What you described earlier about having sexual assaults and having bad relationships and things to this nature, you have taken and converted that energy into a way of sharing that another person who has a similar survival experience is able to adapt and relate to. And I think that is such a critical thing because we're taking something that was bad and we're converting it into something that was really, really later becoming good. And I absolutely, I feel that with you very strongly. And I think that your patients are very, very blessed to have you. And I mean that with all
Thank you
sincerity.
so much. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Well, it's what I feel. It's what I sense. You know, my doctorate's in pastoral counseling. Took me 12 years to get it. And part of those years I was in federal prison at the time doing my studies. And I remember when I got my first ordination after completed studies, and big mafia guy that was on the yard actually threw a big feast for me out on the yard because they knew I wasn't some guy hiding behind a Bible. Hell, I was a hospice counselor. I was working in the education department, helping guys get their GEDs. I was involved in a community way that I could be positive to other fellow prisoners and inmates that were in there. And I myself was a terminally ill patient. I was dying. I was taken out of another prison and flown to that hospital to die. And I was given less than 3 months of life. And I volunteered for an experimental drug. And this is 1995, 1996. And I took the drug, the injections for 10 months. And my liver was shutting down, was my cause of terminal illness. And it totally reversed it. And here I am over 30 years later, alive and well, kicking strong, and just giving everything I can possibly give back to humanity with such a great thanks. And so when
Wow.
you talk to other people that can you relate to the energy shifting concepts, other people identify because they sense it, they feel it. Like Mr. Gambino, when he threw that big feast out on the yard for me, they knew that this really was an ordained man. And they so respected it, so honored it. And it was amazing. And it was the energy, Angela, that these people that are in prison and dealing with so many other things and influences at that time of their suffering, if you will, in life, something good comes out of the cloud and they grab onto it and they attach to it. And yeah, you know, it's funny to say this, but I'm actually glad that I went to federal prison and spent time in there. It was a learning experience for me. And it expanded my ability to have a wisdom that I could share later in life. And I remember when I was completing my dissertation, which was based on the hospice community and the homeless community. That's what my dissertation was on. It took me 3 years to do it because my bishop at year 2 could have signed off and I would have got my doctorate that year earlier. But he felt that there was something more that I needed to go through. And I remember struggling with him, holding me back, if you will, from becoming a doctor. But in later years of life, I understood that there wasn't enough suffering done yet. As Christ suffered on the cross for us, the lesson we learned became eternal. So too does the energy, if you will, of what we pick up in life in our younger years that later makes sense to us in our latter years. I'm 71 now. I'm not a young kid anymore, but I sit here full of joy every moment of my life. And that's because I learned how to center that, accept that, and then transcend it into other people. This is my 21st year working in the homeless community. I have people that are brought here that are overdosing on drugs, and the VA. I'm a veteran, so I get Narcan kits to bring them back, and I have rape victims that are dropped off here in the middle of the night. I usually get 2 or 3 of them a year that have just gone through the worst moment of hell in their existence. But the homeless community knows their pastor. They trust their pastor. They know that I'm not going to turn them over to the law or make them go to a hospital, because most of the people I deal with have felony warrants out on them, and they're being hunted and they're afraid. And so we create them an environment that takes years to become trusted. And I so love it, because then it gives us an opportunity to take someone that is so critically damaged in that moment of their life and to be able to give them an assurance. And what it is, Angela, is the energy. They have an energy of security, of safety, of sanctuary, of understanding that this isn't someone they've been delivered to that's going to judge them or condemn them. This is someone that is going to try to relate to them, equate to them, and afford them a sanctuary for the time needed for them to be able to realign, refocus their life moment. And the rewards come years later. I had a lady, she was a prostitute, gang raped by, I believe it was 5 men, dropped off here at 3:00 in the morning. I kept her here for 2 days. I did her laundry, I let her shower, I fed her, made her up a bed on the couch. And this is probably the first time in years where she didn't have to trade her flesh for a place to sleep for the night. Yeah. Anyway, she came back 2 years later, a knock at the door. She's holding a baby. She's introducing me to her husband. They're buying their first house. She's been drug-free and drug-clear. And she was sitting there in tears, introducing her husband to the one person that had been in her most horrible moment of life, that didn't demand or expect anything in return for simply helping another human being. And these, my dear, are the rewards, because her testimony has carried to so many other people over these years since that moment of my reward. Seeing her in such joy and such a beautiful life that it happened. Isn't that cool? It's just
so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a lot of stories like that. I've been doing this 21 years. But those are the rewards, Angela, because then they take and they pay it forward to other people. Because now, like you, like me, who have been through tragic circumstances, now they have an understanding that they can take in a positive way and say, take a look at me. Look at this example. And that's what that young lady did for me that night when I met her husband, a wonderful guy. Look at that little precious baby they had. And they're just excited to share with them, with a perfect stranger, if you will, this moment of her transition.
Perfect stranger, but not a perfect stranger,
Yeah, well said. Yeah. Because there is that, well, like you were talking earlier about the universal energy. We're all connected, my dear, every single one of us. It's whether or not we want to allow that intrusion, if you will, into our life. And often our most vulnerable and tragic moments of life. So the work that you're doing, I so greatly commend and stand behind, because it is a complex industry, if you will, working with the energy of afflicted and damaged others. And you're right in the battlegrounds. You're right there in the front line, Angela.
I am. And, I remember, like, I'm 37 and going through this, I remember just being on my knees, like moments where I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to. What is this, right? Like, and it's like preparation. This is preparation. And there's so many people, right? The spiritual space is saturated, as I'm sure you know. Yes. And the energy that you're talking about, right? Like when you went to prison, or that woman whose lives you changed, what makes that impact is our willingness to go within ourselves, right? And to transmute our own stuff so that we can be a channel, right, for that light. And people just know it. No matter, I just did a post today about religion, spirituality. It's all about the heart. Right? It's all about where you come from.
Boy, how true that is, isn't it? You really got to grab onto that, because it's a very earth-shattering moment when you realize that you are allowing your inner self, that one component of the three parts that makes you a Trinitarian creation, into another component of another self. It's a very dynamic moment. But when you look at the recognition in their eyes, you see that moment that they have found at least a tunnel to the avenue of that which they are seeking out, to find their self-awareness and self-assuredness that it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
And for us,
oh, go ahead.
For us that are healers, it is just such a rewarding moment because we don't take the glory or the credit. We know who gets the glory and the credit. We've been past all of that. There's no ego. There's no pride. There's nothing but this desire, if you will, to share that which we are and that which we identified and discovered. And that's why having you coming on today, I was actually telling Pete about this, how exciting this was, because you are my first metaphysicist on the show. And it just, it's such a courageous moment. I just love it, Angela. Well, listen, we're down to about 4 or 5 minutes here. I would like to spend the last 4 or 5 minutes having you share that which you desire for others to be able to leave the show with today, what they can do as what we have been shown to do with that which we have learned through our experiences. Take it away, my dear.
All right. I guess I'll have, so interesting when I step into the channel and the light, because sometimes what you think you're going to share, then what you actually share from the heart is very different.
Yeah.
But the first thing is, and a big lesson of mine was to not be afraid to be human. I feel like a lot of times people try to escape the human journey, whether it be through addiction and drugs or through spirituality and religion, right? And it's in the experiences, it's in the moments that we feel the polarity of emotion that we transform. Rarely is it massive breakthroughs, right? Rarely is it just like lightning comes down. I always leave like 1% because it could happen. But it's in the micro moments where we choose to have grace with ourselves, where we choose to hold compassion for that little version of us that didn't get what we needed, and we're doing the best we can. And I used to be so hard on myself, and I would judge myself, and I'm supposed to be this way, and the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? But what I was missing was, hey, I'm human, and this is okay. Because I can go somewhere, I can pivot from this point. No matter where you are in your darkness, even in your light, you can always pivot, and you're always held by the light, right? God is always there.
Yes.
You're never, what's it saying about, you're never forsaken. And we forsake ourselves, right? We turn away and we look up, but it's in holding ourselves and looking up that we shift our reality. And another aspect that I've been stepping into is, I remember getting this oracle card, and it was called Many Paths. And I didn't understand it for the longest time. I was like, what do you mean? I don't understand. And it's about, there are many paths to the light. And a lot of times we can get caught up in which one we should do, right? Or what other people say is right or wrong, or this one's evil, this one's light, this one. But it's about truly what lights you up. What are you passionate about, right? Where are your gifts calling you? What group do you want to, maybe you want to do ecstatic dance. Maybe you want to go deep into prayer, right? Both of them can allow you to open up to yourself, to find that peace, to find that space where you get to look back and say, wow, I did it. Wow, it is possible. Magic does exist, right? And then you begin to find that interconnectedness and anchor into your humanity, because that's what this life is about, right? We get to be here and experience life in all of its ways, and that is a miracle.
That's beautiful. I love that for a closing statement, Angela. And I want to send my love to you, my love to yours that are in your life, my love to those that you and I have not yet had the privilege and pleasure to touch their hearts yet. But I think you are on a really good path. And I would like to say, hasta luego y vaya con Dios. Yes, es todo. Thank you, dear, for being on my show today. You were amazing.
Thank you. You are as well. You are as well.
Thank you, sister.
Okay.
Okay, folks. Well, that wraps up another episode today. And I'd like to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to catch our show. Now, if you like these shows, I would ask that you would please hit like, share, and subscribe. It's so important to us that we get these messages out, and we understand that these are graphic, almost toxic interviews. But this is the kind of impact that we feel is needed in order to make sure that people understand the significance of the problems that we are confronted within our own country and around the globe. So I'm going to say at this time that I love you all. God bless you all. Hasta luego, y vaya con Dios, and go Victors.